right, folks, welcome. And this is something new. This is something that we're doing for the first time. And as our guest, we have Eva Castro. We're actually doing this for La Flecha, which is going to be our e-newsletter that we're going to put out every month. And so this is our staff highlight. And with that, I want to pass it on over to Eva Castro. And if you could tell us a little bit more about what do you want to create more space for in your life?
Right now, I can say honestly, spirituality. I know it's hard right now because of everything that's going on. And so a lot of the ceremonies and everything that we would attend prior to COVID, I think, are like, I would rely so much on, just attending. Now I have to make that space available for my home and I have to be more intentional about it. So that's something personally that I would like to make more space for.
Yeah, that's so true. It just changes the dynamics, of balancing our inner energy and like the energy that's happening around us. So it's key. Um, Thank you for sharing. And so a little bit more about your relationship with MILPA. Um, how were you introduced to the MILPA space?
Okay. So Milpa, my family, my parents are they have been doing nonprofits since I was really little. So we were already kind of introduced. My parents are the elders for the Salinas community, and they do a lot of like groups. And my dad was running a men's circle at the time, and I was holding a samador for. I hold a samador for my dance group, so I was bringing it into the space and setting up altar for my mom and my dad during the time for milpa, and I would just be on the sidelines. And then along the way, I was learning about my own like ways to run sweat lodge and run ceremony. And I got to run my first ceremony for milpa, and I met all of the men that were at the current time working for milpa, and that was my first introduction to them. Then after that, I continued to join spaces with it was like a workshop that was being held by BHC with the curanderas. And I met Juan and Tina a little bit more in depth and shared space with Christian as well. And there it just moved forward into me doing contract artwork. The huge a mural that's up in the front of the um, office when you first walk in. And then from there, I landed a job, and here I am. I took a break from school and decided that I wanted to work for MILPA for a little bit. I started off as a cultural educator and a program assistant. And then I moved into cultural educator and program coordinator. And then from there, I worked operations. And then now I'm doing operations and finance manager.
Orale, thank you for sharing. And if you could tell us a little bit more about your role on a day to day, what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're planning for? What are you strategizing for?
Okay, so there's a larger picture goal. I'm hoping that I want to eventually have a wellness center or land where we can practice our own indigenous teachings and have like our own kind of community space. I'm going based off of Juan and John's big picture, their goals, and I just want to make it happen. So currently I'm working on phases to be able to get to that point where we could be self-sustainable and we can start practicing more of our own teachings in our community and working to kind of cure that generational trauma that's been going on for more than 500 plus years, to decolonize the best that we can and to kind of work to change the dynamics between men and women, and also being very inclusive, especially with the idea of decolonize. We always have that like misconception about identity, and we have to learn that, even like when we talk about like two spirit, we're talking about like omateo, just really emphasizing the terms and the philosophy of the Mexica people. Of course, bringing in other indigenous teachings as well, but my own personal perspective would be based on Mexica. And so I'm hoping to implement that as much as possible and hope that it will help the community around
La
us.
esencia, the essence of the work, ¿verdad? Um, and what are some of those challenges that have come up? during your experience and doing this work, you know?
Well, there's been a few. So starting off, I was a culture educator and I would run space circles and groups. And in those spaces, I've come across challenges of triggers. So I didn't even realize that, I had my own stuff that I have to work through and that I was being triggered by some of our community members and things. So I took a step back and I realized, you know what, I need to take some time and actually kind of work on my own self before I can completely hold space for other people. And so I've had the opportunity, a blessing to go to therapy and now continuously work on myself. Another challenge is it's hard for us as system impacted and formerly incarcerated people to fit into the corporate world, and having this really high expectation of like what it is to be professional and what it is to have all this knowledge behind us. None of us, majority of us didn't get degrees and go to school for our line of work. And so right now, I think a challenge would be like a learning curve that I've experienced. I do finances, I do operation, I do human resources, and I don't have a degree in any of those topics. But yeah, I'm managing a 501c3 nonprofit, and I've come across a lot of, I guess you can call them barriers and spaces where I haven't really fully developed. But on the bright side, I do have a lot of opportunity for trainings, webinars, workshops, and be able to get like certain certifications that I never even saw myself doing. So there's been a lot of challenges because I feel like almost believing that I'm not good enough or that I'm not capable, but then a lot of gifts too of proving to myself that I am.
Yeah, gracias for sharing that. And something that I always appreciate about you is that you're always so honest and like willing to be vulnerable, whether that's just because like you're with us or maybe you do that in your life in general, but I definitely really appreciate that. And so with that, I want to pose to you the question of, have you had any experiences that have transformed your life outside of Milpa? And if so, feel free to share.
Yes, outside of MILPA. So, I mean, like I expressed, I've been going to ceremony and traveling since I was about 5 years old, just for reservations. And there's been so many experiences that I can name that have changed me, just even like staying on a res for a week and experiencing it outside of ceremony and seeing like almost like the poverty and the hurt and the pain and like the details of like what's really going on the reservations. I've experienced protests and activism with my family and just really going into detail about like what's what we're really trying to fight for, even within MILPA or outside of MILPA, and all these nonprofits and all these organizations. What's the whole point to them? I know I've experienced traumas, that I wouldn't want to talk about right now, but things that have altered my life to give me a different perspective. I just had a lot of experiences that I can say have altered my life and to be what it is now. The most recent thing, obviously, I had spoke about earlier is the therapy, which has made me actually completely different person now. It's making me rethink everything and kind of giving me a different world because I was so scared of that Western mentality. And I was so terrified, of that mindset of like the stigma behind therapy. But now that I'm actually going through the process, I do see that there is a necessity within our people to get help and to get resources and to actually utilize all the things that we're actually putting onto other people. So basically practice what we preach. It's not easy, it's very difficult, but I just see it as like I'm being enlightened in my own way. If there was a way that I could do this through an Indigenous perspective during COVID, I would definitely take that route. But right now, this is what is available to me, and I'm more than honored to do it.
Yeah, thank you for being open about that, because I think it's something that a lot of us, definitely experience. But we all kind of like, fall into that rhythm at a different pace. But I think you just sharing that is so important and so valuable. So thank you. Um, and you know, and también en reflexión and reflection to your journey in this space, you know, what's one of your favorite memories that you've shared within MILPA?
My favorite memory at MILPA. Let's think about it. I've had a lot. I've shared spaces and circles with a lot of really, really nice people. I can honestly say my favorite thing to do at MILPA is decolonize paint night. It's fun. It's something that kind of like fuels me. I love traveling, so my favorite thing is traveling and painting and decolonize paint night with the community and seeing the kids and being able to like interact. I'm not a very social person. Like, I don't like to completely go out of my way to go meet people. So the fact that people come to me and talk to me and want to learn about my stuff that I know, whatever it is, little bit amount, I'm more than happy to share, and I get kind of excited, so it does fuel me. But also the traveling and getting the experience. I did get to go to New Orleans, and I've gone to Colorado, and I'm like really grateful for those opportunities and those experiences because I got to see a different side of things. And it's not traveling for ceremony; it's traveling for work, which is a different side of like my experiences. I've always traveled just for ceremony. That's the only time I've ever gone anywhere, really, to be honest.
Gracias. And I will ask you, what do you feel like folks outside of MILPA should know about the MILPA space? And obviously now it's different just because like we're not in the office, right? And I was only there for 2 weeks before there was like the shelter in place, but you being there longer and having more space, more time in the actual office. But even now in this virtual space, like what would you want people to know about MILPA?
Well, first thing I want them to know is that it's a family space. Everybody in there, I consider them my brothers or my sisters. And it really feels like it. You know, I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters, and we have a really tight knit family. So, and I could see a lot of the similarities with my coworkers and my bosses and everything. And I treat them just like I would my brother and sister. So when you come into the space, it almost feels like home and it feels like a family space. And we're going to treat you like a family and care about you like a family. And even if we don't know you, you'll get fed for sure. There's always going to be food in our office when we do have our office open. And if it's a Zoom meeting, your emotional well being is going to be put before any kind of transactional um, conversations. Like, we always want to know how you're doing, and we're really concerned about people, actually. So that's something I can say honestly, that I've gotten out of MIPLA. And from my experience of being there in the office and working there for 2 years, I see completely that it is family.
Orale, gracias. Any final words from you, Eva Castro?
Just that I'm really thankful for this opportunity. I appreciate the both of you. Rosada, it's been a pleasure working alongside with you and having you on our team. And Diana, thank you so much for everything that you do all the time. I appreciate the both of you. And I love sharing space with both of you as well. And I'm just really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, Diana, any final words, thoughts, reflections?
Um, no, just feeling very blessed, you know, and sharing space with y'all and sharing, you know, reflect your reflection of who you are and just getting to hear more of who you are. You know, it's just that it's energía pura, pure energy, even if it's through a screen. And so just appreciations for y'all.
Hey, same here. I'm about to cry.
Same. I'm like, hold on, if I keep talking.
I never cry. So thank you both for this space and just for shout out to feminine energy, just energy and energía, positive, pure energy. So shout out to you, Eva. Thank you so much for everything that you do at Milpa. You're definitely one of the rocks of the family, right? And so thank you. And with that, this is our first staff highlight for La Flecha. So be on the lookout for La Flecha for November. Thank you, Eva, for joining us, and peace, everybody.